Good afternoon. I'll start with just a statement. Thanks for being here this afternoon. Several weeks ago, we were notified by law enforcement of two major incidents at West High School. Both incidents involved assistant football coaches at the school, specifically allegations of inappropriate relationships with underage students. I want to begin by stating that behaviors like these are not and will never be tolerated in Knox County schools. I'm a dad myself, and as superintendent, as I say lots of times, safety is our number one concern. That's for all of our students in Knox County. Every day our families trust us with their most precious treasures, their children, and that's not something that I take lightly. And the students who have been impacted by these events have remained at the top of our mind through this whole investigation. We can't forget that. And that's been important for us. Once we were made aware of these allegations, I charged our Business and Talent Division with performing a complete and thorough investigation into the West High School staff and athletic program. The purpose of that investigation was to ensure that anyone who had broken policy or procedure was held accountable. I want to commend the Business and Talent team for executing this assignment with integrity and efficiency. Their work provided me with the information we needed to take the appropriate steps. Specifically, we received the insight needed to do two things: hold accountable any individuals who failed to follow KCS policy or procedure, and also to create a plan to reduce the possibility of any similar infractions happening in the future. Based on our team's investigation, we have taken the following actions. We've issued a written reprimand and non-renewal for an assistant football coach. We've accepted the resignation of an assistant football coach. We have terminated an educational assistant. We have relieved the head football coach of coaching duties with a reassignment of teaching duties. We've established a plan for increasing oversight and the hiring process for all West High coaching candidates over the next 2 years. We've established increased training requirements for the West High staff, including coaching staff, for the next 2 years. We've established an increased district oversight into compliance with required trainings, including required check-ins for West High staff members. We're also reviewing the KCS Athletics Handbook for any revisions or improvements that we need to make moving forward. We understand this is a significant response when faced with gross misconduct at our schools, especially misconduct that violates the safety of our students and the integrity of our profession. We will take swift and decisive action. I want to thank the Knoxville Police Department as the lead investigators in this process. I've personally spoken to Chief Noel, and he and his team are in regular communication with our team throughout this process. The investigation is still ongoing, and so we'll continue to cooperate with KPD every step of the way. I also want to acknowledge how challenging the last few weeks have been for the students and family at West. You've lived with a lot of unanswered questions, frustrations, and uncertainty in the last couple months, and I realize that. We've had the same questions and the same frustrations. West High is an excellent school, and it isn't how anyone wanted the school year to end. I want to thank you for your patience and your understanding. Decisions like these are never easy, but we'll always prioritize the safety of our students. And with that, I'm open to take some questions. I'll probably have about 10 or 15 minutes, so go right ahead.
Tell us what policies the head coach violated.
I'm not going to get into everyone's personnel. I mean, there's like 7, 8 different ones that were listed there. But when we talk about looking at that full investigation, let me say this. It was important for me in challenging our team to look at the whole piece, not just to look at individual people. When you've had two things this big that have taken place, it's important to know whether those were just two isolated situations or if they were tied to something bigger. So our investigation actually went all the way up to the top. The principals, the athletic directors, all those were part of the investigation. They weren't part of performing the investigation, they were part of being investigated. All the way down, you see, till we got as far as the teaching assistant. So each one of those, we followed our investigation process and made those decisions from there. Some of those, obviously you're going to have from what you know from reporting some of those things, and some of those are decisions made. A long time ago, because I'm an older fellow now, but I mean, at one time I was a coach. I was an assistant coach in high school. I had 1 year as a volunteer coach, assistant coach in a college in basketball. And, I was taught during that time that everything speaks to the name of that coach and to that program when you run that. And those everything are midnight bus rides on the way home. Like behavior in locker rooms, right? Not just what happens on the field or the court between the time the whistle blows, but it's everything. And so we take that into effect too. The supervision, the institutional control of all those things that need to happen in that situation, we're all taken into account in this investigation as well.
What steps is the district taking to make sure this does not happen again in West High School or any school in the district?
Great question. Anytime these things happen, we have to look at ourselves. I mentioned a few in some of those steps. I'll start specifically to West High School. We have added for the next 2 years in their hiring process of any athletic coaches that our district athletic director will be involved in those, as well as our human resource department directly involved in those hires for the next 2 years. There's also, it is happening now, but we want to make sure that's happening across all programs, continuous check-ins with the athletic director and coaches on a regular basis, and then continuous check-ins with the athletic director to the head principal as well, to make sure that everything's been managed according to our policies and procedures. There are trainings as well. Typically, a lot of our trainings are through video. West High School's full staff will receive training from our human resource department in person on things like reporting, how reporting needs to happen, Title IX violations, and correct relationships between students and staff. There will also be trainings for athletic teams. A lot of those, again, are able to be done digitally. They won't be for West High School for the next 2 years. Our district athletic director will do those trainings for all of those coaches before their seasons, before they're able to start, so we'll have that.
When did this investigation begin, and were there ever any other complaints regarding the football staff or the coaches before this? Because obviously there's a lot of rumors that this has been a culture issue at West dating back, several years.
Sure. So I'd say, for us, the investigation began, I believe the date was April 3rd. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it was early April, let's say that, right? I think it was April 3rd. And it was actually brought to us through a law enforcement partner. That was the initial allegations that then we did an internal. And just so you guys know that too, KPD, Sheriff's Department, in this case KPD, they do all the investigation on criminal law breaking. We cooperate and back out of that. Our job is to make sure on our policies and procedures that are set by our board that we're following those. So I would say that first of all, so we started at that point. Great question too, and we didn't just look at these as isolated incidences. We asked as part of the investigation to look deeper into multiple years and to see how many incidents we had, not just at West, at other schools too, and see what our practices were there. And that was part of the investigation, and the findings from that, I think that weighed into my decision as well.
Did you find any other complaints or allegations or misconduct for, prior than this current investigation when you did start looking deeper?
Yeah, there are others. There are other things that have happened over the course of the last few years that we're looking at. And I'll say this too, in all fairness, there are in other schools as well, not just West High School. But we did look at I did look at all of those. That was part of the investigation. And to answer your question, yes, there were other ones.
Can you elaborate at all, especially, if this is involving students or minors? I'm sure parents would like to know what the other allegations are.
Yeah, I would say probably some of that we need to probably pull some records to get that, because I may leave one or two out looking at some of those. But there have been some, again, around some different athletic things that have been part of the coaches, some in cases they've resigned, and we've had some other stuff. But I think it's probably best to be accurate to make sure we're getting the records that you need for that.
Has a new coach been named for the football team interim or officially?
Great question. And so I sent a message out to the West families a little earlier today. Dr. Spees followed up with one as well, and has named Baron Chandler the head coach of West High School moving forward. That is not in an interim basis. That is the new head coach acting moving forward as of today.
Some of the former head coaches reassigned to a teaching position. Will that be at West High School, or will that be?
It will not be at West High School, but that determination of where has not been determined yet.
And talk about how there's going to be a lot of oversight of the hiring of staff. Is that going to extend outside of West High School and become more of a regular practice moving forward?
Yeah, I would say this, as a whole, I think we've got a pretty good track record of doing that. Typically how that works in Knox County is the head principal has a lot of initial control over that, working with their athletic director when we're talking about athletics. Especially in the head coach, there's a lot of hiring that goes in through the athletic director and head principal sign-off. A lot of the assistant coaches, just the nature of some of the teams being large, a lot of that is left up largely to the head coach, and he or she would work with the athletic director for that. It has served us really well to have that trust and still running through our human resource department, and they don't just have totally, they have to follow our KCS policies on those hires. That's worked really well, but in cases like this where we think there's a need for a little more oversight, we'll put that in to make sure over 2 years that becomes part of their practice, and that we're making sure all that is cleaned up and helps moving forward. So I would say at this point, don't know there's a need to extend it outside of there, but if we see that in the future, then I think we have a model we could use.
You mentioned a significant lack of oversight regarding the football program. How much of this falls on Principal Speaks, especially if some of these allegations have been, again, dating back a few years, and at that time, especially if she was principal?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ultimately, principals do have ownership of the school. And as I said before, part of our investigation, what I challenged our team to do was to look at all those levels. Anywhere we had a lead, we followed. And some things just not just to this, but other things that came up in the conversations that we looked at. Lots of cases, multiple conversations about multiple topics with the same people. And I feel confident from the information that we've gotten that I'm confident that Dr. Spees is in a position where she can lead this and move this forward. Same thing with Paul Romero, the athletic director. Again, lots of record finding, lots of tough questions, lots of looking for things to get that done. And so at the end, yes, I'm confident that those two can help move this forward and feel like that at this point. So.
Two coaches arrested, sorry. So two coaches obviously have been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Brown is moving the lead of his head coaching duties. Are any other coaches that are currently employed on the football team or for the football team under investigation?
Yeah, I'm not aware. I mean, like this technically closes our investigation into West High School. And that's not to say, again, I told you before, KPD has that ongoing, and they would share information as they feel they need to. So, we always reserve the right to go back and look into something. But based on what we've looked at on our policies and our procedures, we feel like this concludes our look into West High School at this time.
Now that the investigation is closed, are you able to share some just details about the victims? How old were they? Are they getting any resource after this? And how?
I really can't a whole lot, again, because it's an open investigation. I can't really speak to that. So our investigation is closed, but again, KPD's is not. So at this point, we can't.
Who was the teacher that was reprimanded at the
Do we want to release the record? We can do that to make sure you get it. I just want to make sure I'm accurate and not say stuff that might be a nickname or a real name or something for sure, but there is a teacher, correct.
Regarding the arrest of Chad Brooks and Richard Shaver, any connection at all, or are those two completely separate incidences?
Yeah, I would say again, I mean, that is an open investigation for KPD. So one, we may not have that full knowledge, and two, like that's probably a better question for them.
Switching gears, you said you
Sure.
Sent a letter to parents earlier today, kind of letting them know. What message do you have for them that their kids are at West High School and now all of this is happening? Obviously, as a parent, you have
Sure.
thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say two things. The nature of my message was really kind of here, what we're saying here was to kind of let them know it's concluded and kind of what the finding is. It's important for us. Our commitment was to be transparent and let them know that. And I know Dr. Spees was following up with a call to them as well to welcome Coach Chandler and let them know what their next steps will be moving forward for conversations they may need to have. My message is to West parents is, West is an incredible high school. It's very highly decorated, highly awarded for the things it's done. Students have come out of there. They're given every opportunity to do a lot of things, and they're changing the world. I also would say I understand. I'm not blind to the fact that this is a big deal. It's a big deal when you've had a successful athletic program like the football team. They've done a lot of great things in recent years, and I don't think there's any reason for that not to happen. There's still a lot of talent on that team. I think there's still high expectations for that team, and from what I understand, Mr. Chandler, Coach Chandler, is excited about the opportunity to try to do great stuff with that team this year. So, I would say we hate it. West is bigger than this. This is not something we wanted to deal with, but it is something that we needed to deal with, and I think West is going to be good moving forward.
The new former head coach, has a legacy at West High School. So, investigations and allegations. How is that moving forward?
The investigation you're saying, or the?
Just kind of the attitude of the school system and the parents and everyone behind
Sure.
it.
I mean, again, I'm not going to say sugarcoat it. It's going to be. It's hard. I'm sure the West families hearing this today is not an easy thing, right? It's a lot to absorb. It's a lot of change. I will say that the good thing about Coach Chandler is he's been part of that that coaching staff. Has been the defensive coordinator at West during this run. Very familiar with how they do things. Very familiar with the expectations of what needs to happen as far as West kind of winning and the spirit and what they do with all those things. So I'm very confident that that's going to be good, but also aware that it's a big change. It's a lot for people to absorb. We understand that, but I do want to say this: my obligation is the safety of students, and I don't want to forget in this situation, what has happened that's inexcusable to students that were sent in our care, and it's important that we make swift actions, decisive actions. And West they'll be strong moving forward.
Last question. Anybody?
All right, guys, thanks for coming in short notice. We appreciate you all being here.